Vermont, known for stunning fall foliage, covered bridges, and idyllic New England charm, but nestled in its southwestern corner lies a region veiled in a different kind of reputation, one of mystery, fear, and inexplicable disappearances. Centered around the brooding Glastenbury Mountain and encompassing forests so dense they seem to swallow the light, this area became known in the later half of the 20th century as the Bennington Triangle. Coined by folklorist Joseph A. Citro, the name reflects a chilling pattern. Between 1945 and 1950, 5 individuals entered this wilderness, or simply traveled nearby and vanished without a rational explanation. Their stories are perplexing, disturbing, and remain unsolved to this day. Join us as we delve deeper into the 5 baffling cases that define the Bennington Triangle enigma. The sequence of high-profile disappearances began in the crisp air of late autumn, 1945, with a man who should have been the last person to get lost there, Middie Rivers, the experienced woodsman. Carl Middie Rivers was 74 years old in the autumn of 1945, a widely respected hunting and fishing guide whose life revolved around the mountains and forests of southwestern Vermont. He was intimately familiar with the Glastenbury Mountain area, its trails, its dangers, and its secrets, or so it seemed. On November 12, 1945, Middie was doing what he did best, guiding. He led a party of 4 hunters through the wilderness near the Long Trail system. As the afternoon wore on and the light began to fade around 4 p.m., the group started heading back towards their campsite. Middie perhaps moving with the confidence born of long experience, or simply eager to get back, walked ahead of the others on the familiar path. His companions didn't worry initially. They lagged slightly behind, assuming Middie was just pushing the pace to reach camp first, maybe even get a warming fire going. The distance between him and the rest of the group would have been relatively small, the time interval brief. There's a conflicting, unconfirmed report suggesting a friend saw Middie on a nearby trail shortly after he separated from the group, possibly walking away from the direction of the camp, but this detail remains murky. What is certain is that when the 4 hunters arrived back at their campsite, expecting to find Middie there, he was gone. No sign of him, no fire, nothing. The alarm was raised immediately. A search party mobilized quickly, combing the area where he was last seen. Over the subsequent days and weeks, the effort intensified, drawing in local volunteers, police officers, and even units from the Vermont State Guard. Given Middie's legendary experience, and the relatively contained area where he vanished, seemingly between where he pulled ahead and the nearby camp, search leaders initially expressed confidence that they would find him, or at least signs of what had happened. Historically, others lost in the woods had eventually been located. But Middie Rivers broke that pattern. The vast search yielded virtually nothing conclusive. Reports conflict on the single piece of potential evidence ever recovered. Some accounts state a lone rifle cartridge, presumably from Middie's own gear, was found in a stream bed the following spring. Others mention a handkerchief belonging to Rivers being discovered along a trail, significantly south of his last known position. Neither discovery offered any real explanation for his disappearance. How could a man who knew this terrain intimately vanish without a trace just yards from his destination? Did he suffer a sudden medical event, an accident? Was the disputed sighting of him walking away accurate, and if so, why? With no answers, the disappearance of Middie Rivers marked the unsettling beginning of the Bennington Triangle's 5-year period of intense, unexplained vanishings, leaving a legacy of bewilderment and fear in the Vermont woods. The mystery deepened just over a year later, with a case that would capture national attention and lead to significant changes in Vermont law enforcement. If Middie Rivers' vanishing was baffling due to his experience, the disappearance just over a year later was heartbreaking for its youth and potential. Paula Jean Welden was a bright, 18-year-old sophomore at Bennington College. Originally from Stamford, Connecticut, on Sunday, December 1st, 1946, after finishing her shift working in the college dining hall, she returned to her room. Telling her roommate she felt like taking a long walk and decided to hike a section of Vermont's famed Long Trail. Paula tried to convince some friends to join her, but they had studying commitments, determined to go away, and described as being in notably high spirits. She changed into walking attire. This detail would become critical. She donned a distinctive red parka or jacket, blue jeans, and lightweight sneakers, clothing suitable perhaps for a brisk afternoon walk, but dangerously inadequate for the plummeting temperatures expected that December night in the mountains. let alone an unexpected overnight stay. She carried no extra gear, food, or water. Paula left her dorm room, walked down the campus drive, and began her journey. She first hitched a ride near the college entrance that took her part of the way. Then local contractor Lewis Knapp picked her up on State Route 9, driving her closer to Woodford Hollow and dropping her about 2.5 miles west of the Harbor Road access point to the Long Trail. She likely walked or hitched this final short distance. Multiple witnesses confirmed seeing Paula reach and enter the Long Trail system via Harbor Road. A group of hikers descending the trail encountered her as she was heading up. She paused to ask a few questions about the trail's conditions or route. Another confirmed sighting came from an employee of the Bennington Banner newspaper, who was near the trail entrance and gave her directions. She was last seen confidently walking north along the trail as the afternoon light began to wane. Paula never returned to her dorm. Her roommates, initially thinking she might be studying late at the library, got worried by the next morning, Monday, December 2nd, and alerted college authorities. The search began immediately on campus, but quickly expanded as her planned hike on the Long Trail became known. Her father, William Archibald Welden, rushed up from Connecticut and was deeply critical of what he saw as a disorganized and inefficient investigation by local law enforcement, who lacked the resources and statewide jurisdiction for such a complex case. The search for Paula Welden became one of the largest in Vermont's history. Bennington College closed for several days, allowing hundreds of students and faculty to join the effort. They were bolstered by hundreds more volunteers, firefighters, National Guard troops, and police officers from Vermont, New York, Massachusetts, and Connecticut. The FBI was called in to assist. Paula's father offered a substantial $5,000 reward, a huge sum at the time, for any information leading to her discovery. Searchers meticulously covered the Long Trail north towards Glastenbury Mountain, exploring numerous side trails, and scoured the Route 9 corridor between Bennington and Brattleboro. Planes flew overhead scanning the landscape. Despite this enormous weeks-long effort, the outcome was utterly baffling. Absolutely nothing was found. Not a scrap of her red jacket, not a footprint definitively hers in a crucial location, not a single sign of struggle, accident, or passage. It was as if Paula Jean Welden had stepped onto the Long Trail and simply vanished from the face of the earth. The complete lack of evidence fueled rampant speculation. Did she get lost and succumb to the harsh elements? Was she abducted by someone she encountered hitchhiking or on the trail? Did she stage her disappearance to run away, perhaps with a secret lover? Theories of amnesia were also proposed. Investigators explored various leads, including questioning a lumberjack named Fred Godet, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, who lived near the trail entrance and was reportedly arguing loudly with his girlfriend around the time Paula walked past, but nothing concrete emerged. Paula Welden's disappearance had lasting consequences. The intense criticism of the initial investigation directly spurred the Vermont legislation to create the Vermont State Police Force in the summer of 1947, establishing a coordinated statewide law enforcement body. Her vanishing also left a cultural mark, notably serving as inspiration for Shirley Jackson's unsettling 1951 novel Hangsman. But for Paula herself, there was no resolution, just an enduring, chilling mystery swallowed by the Vermont wilderness. As if the calendar held some grim significance, the next major disappearance occurred on the 3rd anniversary of Paula Welden's vanishing, presenting perhaps the most inexplicable scenario of them all. Three years to the very day after Paula Jean Welden walked into the Vermont wilderness and never returned, the Bennington Triangle etched another deeply unsettling story into its legend. The date was December 1st, 1949, and this time the victim wasn't a hiker on a remote trail, but a passenger on a crowded public bus. His name was James E. Tedford, a World War II veteran in his late 60s. Some sources state he was 68, others slightly older. He was a resident of the Bennington Soldiers' Home, a well-known local. Tedford had been visiting relatives in St. Albans, Vermont. Some accounts mention Franklin, a nearby town. To return to Bennington, he boarded a local bus, taking his place amongst the other passengers. The journey south, by all accounts, uneventful for most of its duration. Fellow travelers, and there were reported 14 others on board, later confirmed seeing James Tedford on the bus, Some noted he was dozing or appeared to be asleep in his seat after the bus had made its last scheduled stop before reaching its final destination in Bennington. He was, by all witness accounts, still on the bus as it traveled that final leg. But when the bus finally pulled into the Bennington terminal and the passengers began to disembark, something was inexplicably wrong. James Tedford was no longer in his seat. He was gone, vanished. His personal belongings, including his luggage, remained untouched in the overhead rack. An open bus timetable lay on the seat he had occupied just moments, or at most a few miles before. The other 14 passengers on the bus were mystified. No one had seen Tedford get off the bus. There were no unscheduled stops where he might have slipped away. He couldn't have jumped from the moving vehicle without causing a commotion or being seen. It was as if he had simply evaporated into thin air while the bus was in motion. Surrounded by other people, investigations into the bus itself and interviews with everyone on board yielded no clues, no explanation for how a man could disappear under such seemingly impossible conditions. Adding another layer of intrigue to James Tedford's personal history, though unverified and often treated as folklore, are whispers that his own wife had vanished years earlier under mysterious circumstances. Some tales even suggest she disappeared from a locked room, or that Tedford returned from military service to find their home abandoned and his wife gone without a trace. While these earlier stories are not directly tied to the bus incident by concrete evidence, they contribute to the aura of strangeness surrounding him. James Tedford's disappearance is often cited as one of the most bizarre and inexplicable events in the Bennington Triangle saga. While the wilderness can swallow hikers, how does a man vanish from the enclosed space of a moving bus, with multiple witnesses confirming his presence just moments before he was discovered missing? The local case defied logical explanation, leaving only a chilling void and another indelible mark on the already unsettling reputation of this Vermont region. He was never seen or heard from again. The fear gripping the region intensified less than a year later with the disappearance of a child, a case that preyed on every parent's worst nightmare. Paul Jepson, the boy who disappeared by the roadside. The fear that had been steadily growing around the Bennington area took a particularly cruel turn in the autumn of 1950. This time, the victim wasn't an adult, venturing into the deep wilderness or traveling alone, but a young child, snatched away in what seemed like the blink of an eye. His name was Paul Jepson, and he was only 8 years old. On October 12, 1950, Paul accompanied his mother, Mrs. Jepson, in their pickup truck to a local dump or landfill situated outside Bennington. It wasn't a recreational outing. Mrs. Jepson kept some pigs at this location and had gone to feed them. While she attended to this chore, young Paul, easily identifiable in his bright red jacket, was left to play near the parked truck. He was out of her direct line of sight for only a relatively short period. Estimates vary, but likely no more than an hour, perhaps as little as 30 to 45 minutes. When Mrs. Jepson finished her task and turned back to call Paul, he was gone. The playful sounds of a child had ceased. The bright red jacket was nowhere to be seen. Panic undoubtedly set in immediately. She searched the immediate vicinity, calling his name, but there was no response. The alarm was raised and the community, already on edge from the previous disappearances, quickly mobilized. Posses were formed, and an extensive search of the area around the dump and the adjacent woods and roads began. Crucially, bloodhounds were brought in to try and pick up Paul's trail. And the dogs did find his scent. They reportedly tracked Paul from where he was last seen near the truck, leading away from the immediate dump site towards a local roadway or highway intersection. Chillingly, some accounts note this intersection was in the vicinity of where Paula Jean Welden had been seen 4 years earlier before she vanished onto the long trail. But there, at the roadside, Paul Jepson's scent trail abruptly stopped. It was as if he reached that point and then simply ceased to exist on foot. The strong implication being that he had gotten into a vehicle, whether willingly or not. Despite this lead from the bloodhounds and the intensive searches that followed, no further trace of Paul Jepson was ever found. No sign of his red jacket, no witnesses who saw him at the roadside, nothing. The idea that a small child could be taken so quickly from an area where his mother was nearby, and for his trail to end so definitively at a public road, sent a fresh wave of terror through the Bennington community and the surrounding towns. Was this an opportunistic abduction, or something connected to the other strange vanishings that plagued the region? Paul Jepson's bright, innocent life had been extinguished from view, leaving only questions and an enduring, heartbreaking mystery. The horrifying autumn of 1950 was not yet over. Just days after Paul Jepson vanished, the final of the 5 core Bennington Triangle disappearances would occur, this one unique in that it eventually yielded a body, though few answers. The autumn of 1950 was proving to be a season of unrelenting fear in and around the Bennington Triangle. Just 16 days after Paul Jepson vanished, the wilderness seemed to claim another. This time, it was 53-year-old Frieda Langer. Unlike some of the others, she wasn't entirely alone when her ordeal began. On October 28, 1950, Frieda and her cousin, Herbert Elsner, were hiking together in the rugged terrain near the Somerset Reservoir. It was a planned excursion into the Vermont wilds. During their hike, an otherwise minor mishap occurred. Frieda slipped while crossing a stream, and her clothes became thoroughly soaked. Chilled and uncomfortable, she made a decision that, in retrospect, would be fateful. She told Herbert that she was going to return to their nearby campsite, a distance reportedly less than half a mile away, to change into dry clothes. She assured him she would either return to that spot quickly, or that he should meet her back at camp. With that, Frieda Langer headed off alone. Herbert waited, but Frieda didn't reappear. After a period of growing unease, he went to their campsite, only to find it empty. Frieda was gone. The alarm was quickly raised, and given the string of recent disappearances, authorities and local community were on high alert. Another massive search operation was launched immediately. For 2 exhaustive weeks, hundreds of volunteers, police officers, and even aircraft equipped with searchlight scoured the dense woods and rugged landscape around the Somerset Reservoir, desperately looking for any signs of a missing woman. But just like with Paula Welden and Paul Jepson before her, they found nothing. Frieda Langer had vanished without a trace. For over 6 agonizing months, Frieda Langer remained another baffling statistic in the Bennington Triangle's grim tally. Then, on May 12, 1951, with the snow melted and the forest floor re-emerging, her body was discovered. She was found in an open area amidst tall grass and brush near the Somerset Reservoir. Some reports state this location was roughly 3.5 miles from their original campsite, a considerable distance if her intention was only a short walk back to change clothes. Crucially and disturbingly, the location where Frieda's remains were found was reportedly within the perimeter of the extensive search conducted the previous autumn. Why hadn't she been found then? Had she been alive for some time, wandering disoriented? Was her body moved there later? Or was she simply missed in the dense undergrowth, only to be revealed by the changing seasons? The conditions of her remains, after months of exposure to the harsh Vermont elements, made it impossible for the medical examiner to determine a definitive cause of death. Frieda Langer holds a unique position among the 5 core Bennington Triangle victims. She is the only one whose body was ever recovered. Yet, this discovery brought little closure. Instead, it deepened the enigma. The undetermined cause of death, the location where she was found, and the failure of the initial massive search to locate her, all added more layers to an already impenetrable mystery. Her death, like the disappearances of the others, remained shrouded in the unsettling silence of the Vermont woods, a final, grim chapter in that terrifying 5-year span. 5 individuals, an experienced woodsman, a college sophomore, a war veteran on a bus, an 8-year-old boy, and a seasoned hiker, all vanished or met unexplained ends within a small geographical area of southwestern Vermont over just 5 years. These cases, linked by proximity and profound mystery, form the heart of the Bennington Triangle legend. So what could have happened? Over the decades, theories have ranged from rational to deeply paranormal. The most straightforward explanations point to the unforgiving nature of the wilderness itself. The Glastenbury Mountain area is characterized by dense forests, treacherous terrain, abandoned logging roads, and notoriously fickle weather that can change in an instant. Native American legends spoke of this specific mountain as a place where the 4 winds met in an eternal struggle, leading to disorienting conditions. It's plausible that some, like Middie Rivers or Paul Welden, simply got lost, succumbed to the accidents, exposure, or even animal attacks, their remains perhaps lost in remote crevices or dense undergrowth never to be found. However, these explanations struggle to account for cases like James Tedford's impossible vanishing from a bus, or why Paul Jepson's scent trail ended so abruptly at a roadside. This leads to theories of human intervention, foul play. Could an undetected serial killer have been operating in the area, preying on vulnerable individuals? The disappearances of Paula Welden and Paul Jepson near roadways make this a grim possibility, though no concrete evidence of such a predator ever emerged. Then there are more outlandish, yet persistent theories that truly define the triangle aspect. Folklorist Joseph A. Citro, who popularized the term Bennington Triangle, documented local tales of strange lights in the sky, UFOs, a Bennington monster, or Glastenbury wildman, a Bigfoot-like creature, and even more esoteric ideas involving dimensional portals and unusual energy fields in the region. Some point to the area being located near several abandoned 19th century towns, like Glastenbury itself, suggesting a lingering eeriness or curse. Ultimately, without concrete evidence or confessions, the true fate of the last 4 of these individuals remain unknown. Frieda Langer's discovery answered one question but posed many others. The Bennington Triangle stands as a chilling reminder that sometimes people can simply vanish, leaving behind only questions, grief, and enduring legends that whispered through the silent Vermont woods. The passage of time has done little to erode the unsettling power of these unsolved cases. What do you think happened in the Bennington Triangle? Do any of these stories particularly resonate with you, or do you have any theories that connects them? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this journey into the unexplained compelling, please give this video a like, subscribe for more explorations of enduring mysteries, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next investigation. Thank you for watching.